Bedlam. Absolute Bedlam. Absolute Bedlam Podcast. Who? What? Where? Why?
Hello and welcome to Absolute Bedlam Podcast. When I told people that I was having Wheatus on the podcast, everyone went, "What? No way. No." Here he is. It's Brendan himself. How's it going, dude?
All right, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm really, really good. I'm feeling a little bit imposter syndrome at the moment, but we move. We've just got to keep, stay confident, ask questions, and sometimes you'll get some responses.
So tell me a little bit about that imposter syndrome thing, because I was talking to somebody about that very phenomenon recently.
Yeah, it's just that feeling of like, why me? Like, how have I managed, like, not to go into it too much because it's quite confidential, but some of the workplaces that I've worked at in the 32 years of being alive, I feel like I'm part of this tiny little cog, do you know what I mean, in society. And like, I don't know how I've managed to sort of weave myself into these situations, but at the same time, I'm probably one of the best equipped people to deal with it because I'm quite an extroverted, confident, outspoken individual. So I'm not this little nerd in the corner that's scared of everything. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But I think I'm quite resilient and I'm quite able to deal with the opportunities that come my way, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I just sometimes wonder how I've managed to assemble this huge community that is Absolute Bedlam. It's just nuts.
Right. Well, I mean, we're all improvising.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't get an operator's manual at birth, so
No, I agree.
I have. I always have this. Whenever something incredible happens with us, I have to go through a period of really working to filter the feelings of that. Where I feel as though somebody's going to find out that we shouldn't have been invited in the first place and pull us,
Okay, yeah.
So I've kind of always experienced that with Wheatus. Our early experiences after the first record came out were very much reinforcing of that. We had Dirtbag, and the first album came out in the States in the autumn of, or I should say August of 2000. For the next 6 months, we toured America without anything happening. And then we blew up in a way overseas that was quite the polar opposite. When Australia and the UK kicked off, it was primetime television, Prince's Trust Party in the Park, and Prince Charles, and kids Saturday morning television, and like all this stuff that I had not been actually shooting for, really. This crossover pop thing took us by surprise, and we thought we would maybe be a sort of nerdy, as you say, nerdy band in the corner from New York, who was sort of eclectic, heavy rock band in the understated feeling of the Talking Heads or the Ramones or something like that, and it went quite another way that we couldn't predict. And of course, there's no guidebook for any of it, so we're always feeling as though somebody was going to find us out.
Okay, yeah.
And when we would come home to the States, nothing was going on here for the first 6 years or so. It began to turn around. The song and the record began to get their own place in everybody's hearts, or like a large portion of music people began to acknowledge it. But for those 6 years, we would go over to the UK and play 35 pub dates and really enjoy ourselves and feel like we were doing something incredibly meaningful and purposeful. And then we would come home and try and figure out whether or not we needed to live in the van, or it was very touch and go. So we never got used to the moment of stardom or its aftermath. We just it always felt like it was overseas for us somewhere. It was at arm's length, and we had to be very careful about enjoying it. In other words, save up a lot of money so we could afford a trip overseas and to do something, to do a tour. Even though we were getting paid, it was never enough to make it work. So for all those years, we struggled that way, all the way up to about 2010. And then things really started to turn around internationally and globally. And the United States now is the place where we get the most streaming spins and all that stuff. I don't know how that happened, because nobody ever relaunched it or anything like that, with the exception of One Direction.
That's interesting.
Playing Dirtbag on stadium tours that they did in 2013 and 14. But I just it's been an interesting ride, like you say.
No doubt.
Just clueless as to how we got here.
I've just had a quick look at your Spotify listens. You're on 3.2 million monthly listeners. So I genuinely don't think you have anything to worry about, my dude.
Well, that's not going to stop me worrying.
No, of
Ben.
course. It's, numbers don't quite offset the mental toll. I get it. I really do genuinely get it.
I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
when
I really do.
You spent more time not being successful than you have being successful, I'm sure. So what you and I have in common is that we are operating from a position of catastrophe all the time. The worry is the operational mentality. It's not as though I can look at Spotify and see a number like 3.2 million and go, all right, I'll sleep well tonight. Fuck it.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry. It's once that's how how it goes for you, that's how it goes for you.
Just on that, this is a bit off piece, but do you think you have natural talent, or do you think that you just work? Because I think that I don't have any innate natural talent, and I just hit doors until they open.
Yeah, fair enough. I'd say that I'm more stubborn than talented. I could, judging my own talent feels to me to be a sort of a subjective word in any case, but I would say that the only tangible thing for me is that I'm certainly more stubborn than I am talented. I never went to school to learn how to use this shit behind me.
Of course.
I tinkered with it and tampered with it until it did what I wanted, and now I have a few tricks that I know how to do, but I don't, and everything I've learned by mistake and by trial and error. So it wasn't, I have a degree in history.
Right.
I don't have. I didn't study music or musical technology ever once. I can't read music. I can compose, but I can't read music. So, I'm I think they call that autodidact, but that sounds like a triple-barreled word to me. So
trial and error.
Yeah,
that seems to work.
A rube. I'll say I'm a rube, and we'll leave it at that.
I got you. So just backpedaling a tiny bit, the reason that I've managed to get you on is MC Lars. 100% love MC Lars so much for setting me up with this. The episode that I've done with him as well is genuinely one of the best episodes I think I've ever done. And I love that look in his eye when I asked him the first question, which I really, really thought about. And he was just like, whoa, this is going to be a tough hour if this carries on. So hell yeah. Shout out to MC Lars. Love you, dude.
Same. I love that guy, man. I talk to him when we talk on the phone. We talk on the phone like 4 or 5 times a year, maybe. And it's always like a 3-hour phone call.
Yeah.
And
totally.
we're talking about philosophy and Descartes and like, it's like, whatever we can get our dirty little, Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. Talk until the phone battery dies. One of them. So
exactly.
MC Lars podcast. So I listened to your episode, and I'm going to try my best not to use the word amalgamate as much as he did on that episode, because he was going hard on that. In the second part of the podcast, because there was 2 episodes that kind of got split up, you mentioned putting your guitar lead through your guitar strap rather than plugging it in directly, and that's massive. Especially I play bass, and and when I see that, I know that someone's had some bad luck and they've learnt from that mistake of accidentally treading on their lead and ripping out their jack. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And when you don't have guitar techs, etc., it's a bit of a learning experience. So do you guys have guitar techs? Because you kind of highlighted that, and I really picked that up in the episode that you did with MC Lars.
Well, my guitar world is incredibly specialized. It's a completely sort of home-built signal path and system, and the guitar itself is unique. And I wouldn't burden any one particular guitar tech with the way that I do things. I have had guitar techs come up to me and express interest and say, "Whoa, man, why are you doing this?" And I say, "Well, this is blah, 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 and I'm trying to do this acoustic and electric at the same time. But also the kind of electric is not the kind of electric you would think it was. It's a full Metallica version, kind of wall of Slipknot sound." And then we kick off on a conversation inevitably. In particular, a guitar tech called Herb, who we were out with on the Everclear tour, really talented guy. There's that word talented again. He was guitar and bass tech for Everclear, and his other jobs are amazing. He was one of my favorite bands, Helmet. He's a front of house engineer for Helmet for
Love
years.
Helmet.
Yeah, and got to talking to him about little tricks and things. And I'm very much a guitar tweaker, engineer type person. The guitar that I do play is a custom sort of like Frankenstein thing. I found a guy in New Jersey called Brian Neville who was willing to try to balance this equation that most luthiers would say was not worth trying to balance or was unbalanceable, which is the archtop acoustic electric that has a gigantic sort of metal guitar style neck that's very fast and like the kind of neck that a true shredder would play, but is married to the body of a properly arched top jazz acoustic. And a sort of a couple of ergonomic tweaks that we made that became more extreme as we went through the prototypes. I can actually go get it for you if you'd like to see it.
Yeah, please. Hell yeah.
Hang tight. I'll be right back.
No problem. Please hold. This is mental. Oh, man. Some shout outs coming up in a minute. So probably could have done that whilst Brendan got his guitar. It's my first day. There it is.
All right. So first, we have this is the first one that we completed that I knew that I would be able to tour with.
Right.
This is an 18-inch Brian Neville custom archtop acoustic. Basically, it's for all conventional purposes, it's sort of a jazz archtop, you know. You know, it's got that sort of big body to it. You know, it's kind of big acoustic tone.
Yeah.
And it's a Sitka spruce top. I sourced all the wood myself. It's a torrified single piece of walnut back and sides that's been carved.
Wow.
And Brian, the guy who built it for me, well, he actually made me do some of it, but the guy who solved all the tricky little equations, all the paradoxes, was he's No, I wouldn't call him a luthier per se. He's a structural engineer and a sculptor. So what he was doing was he was putting together guitar parts in a way that just don't typically get done. And if you look, it's a 3-piece laminated neck with that's African blackwood splines with a mahogany neck, and the if you look, you'll see that this side of the guitar, which is the treble side, the high end, is thicker than the bass. Right? So that when it sits on you, you can see the wedge from this angle, or rather, I'll do it from this angle. It's a little bit cooler, but you see the wedge?
Yeah.
Okay. So it sits on me a little bit further out, so I don't have to reach my neck around so hard to take a look at a glance at the frets, right? Right, okay. And this was the first one, this was the third guitar that we made together.
Oh, yeah.
And we started with a conventional, almost Gibson kind of hollow body design, and moved away from it in steps until we got to something that was totally unique. And this was the first one that I knew we were on to something like for real. Yeah. And so once he was finished with that one, we did a tour where I played it, and I thought like, this is it. I have done everything I need to do with guitars. I never need to do anything else. And I got home, and I was driving past one of my like local wood supply places. I cruised the lumber yards for tone wood just in case. And you'd be surprised how many wonderful pieces of guitar wood wind up in cabinet shops or boat manufacturing yards or whatever, and they'll put them on the side of the sidewalk, and we won't even take them for free, you know?
Yeah. I got you.
I was driving past this one place that I was used to scoping out. The hardest part to find to build this guitar is the single piece of very thick walnut. Black American walnut is in this size is rather difficult to find. It's got to be about 25 inches wide. It's got to be at least 6 or 7 inches deep, and it's got to be 40 or 50 inches long. Right? This is almost like you'd say a butcher block of solid walnut with no sapwood. So. Of course, no sooner does he finish the 18, that I'm kind of it's a little splinter in my mind of you've got a perfect 18-inch version of this guitar, but you know the deal, man. You break strings and equipment goes bad and stuff gets lost in transit, and you're gonna have to have a backup to this, because if you go down the road of setting up all your sounds with this one guitar, what do you got that backs it up? So. I'm having that conversation with myself. I'm driving past one of my lumber yards, and I see sitting out in the front, leaning against the wall, a perfect piece of 4 foot by 4 foot solid, gigantic walnut, and it's like 8 inches deep, and it's just like the most beautiful aged piece of wood I've ever seen. So I snatched that thing up for, I think that piece of wood was probably $300. The guy knew what it was, and this is the one that he made me with that. This is a 19-inch version of the guitar. I'm in the process of sanding down some of the bracing inside, so I've got it all taped up. The electronics the guts are hanging out of it, but this is the 19-inch version of that. This is now my number one. This is the one I just did the Summerland tour with as the primary acts on the Summerland tour. This thing is huge. I mean, it's
it's massive. Yeah, it's
really big. This is the treble side, and this is the bass side. So we made the wedge far more drastic on this one for much more sort of like ergonomic sweep.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and we also he said, how many frets do you want on this guitar? And I said, how many can you give me? And he said, I can give you, he's like, I want to go up to 36. I want to make it even, an even number. And here we are, a functioning 36 fret guitar. So, this thing, I mean, it's fantastic. Huge. It looks like I'm wearing a cello or something.
Man.
But I love this thing. This thing has like just monstrously gigantic tonality. It was the fourth iteration of his design, so he got a whole bunch of stuff right, that he had been worrying about. And, it's just huge.
Hell yeah.
I can't. I'm leaning on the console and trying to play it here without having stuff. So this thing is now the number one, which is 19-inch. Like you would call it a Brian Neville custom guitar or a W model.
Fantastic.
So I take those two out. Those are my two main and backup, and I use a pickup called a Graphtec Ghost. Sorry, my dog Cosmo's out in the backyard barking away. But I use a Graphtec Ghost pickup for it, and it's it's like a weird sort of acoustic pickup that has been, I think, pretty well engineered for just a neutral acoustic tone, which is very hard to do with electronic. Acoustic pickups are almost all garbage, right? Do you notice? I don't know if you mess around at all, but they sound very sort of plackety or plickety, and they don't really have a warmth to them at all. There's a lot of transient attack that's unpleasant. So
I think the future is modular, isn't it? It's having that ability to flick between clean, distorted, overdriven, just full out balls to the wall Metallica, and you see stuff like Fluence pickups, stuff like that. And is it Fishman?
What's Fluence? What's a Fluence pickup?
Is it Fishman?
Fishman is they make the pickup that was in my original Martin guitar, which I used for the first album, second, third, lots of the fourth album, and the fifth album. That's Fishman Gold Line Plus.
Yeah.
That one was pretty cool. It did the trick, but it's nothing like the Graphtec. The Graphtec is another story.
Yeah, I think I'm not a massive guitar player myself. I play bass, so I just leave stuff in it, and occasionally, every 3 years I'll change the strings.
Right.
So Devin Townsend uses Fishman Fluence, I think it is, and
I'll have to look that up.
He just gets this crazy switch because a lot of his stuff's very clean. And then the next album's just insanity, like, Strapping Young Lads, obviously, like one of his side projects and stuff like that. Who else is it? Bare Knuckle. They're from the UK, I think.
Would you mind emailing me some of these links so I can track them down here? I'm recording a backup of this conversation on my phone. So
of course. No problem.
Otherwise, I'd be surfing the web right now trying to find that stuff.
I forgot to remind you about that, so well done.
No, but I had seen it in an email, or Matthew, I think, had mentioned it to me. Yeah.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, I can tell that you're a bit of a gearhead, so I love that. Just let you riff on that. Quickly do some shout outs because I will forget otherwise. We will go back into this one hole of talking about guitars for 20 minutes.
Sure, man.
So Archie Soul, always hooking me up. They recently just sent me a box full of stuff from the US, stuff from Canada, all from the UK, exclusive contracts. We've got Duke Cannon Thick. Smells like naval diplomacy body wash. This is just nuts. I'll send you a link to this as well if you're interested. Old Glory, this one's called.
Yeah.
So they just always hooking me up with stuff, constantly sending me stuff all the time, and I could not be happier with it. It is absolutely fantastic, and I'm actually struggling to get through it at this point, to be completely honest.
So it's all sort of like washes and hygiene stuff. Is that all? Yeah. Soaps.
Yeah. This is the soap. I always get the soap. I love people's reactions.
Can we call them posh soaps?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beer soap.
Oh, that's as posh as it gets right there.
This is my phone. This is the soap.
Is that the soap that Boris Johnson keeps at 10 Downing?
Probably. He's on next week. I'll ask him. That'll be the dream. No, that will not be the dream. Let's not joke about stuff like that. Who else have I got a shout out? I got a shout out to my editor, John. He said, "Thank you so much, Brendan. Lemonade really got him through his tough times. He's recently had a bit of a divorce with his wife. Shout out to John for always hitting me up and sorting out these messy videos of all of these audio delays and stuff that we always have to work through, dude.
Cheers, John.
Yeah, nice one. Coffee shout out. So I've recently acquired a new sponsorship. So we'll just quickly run through that. They're called Lasting. What were they called? Let me get this right. Cast Long Shadows Coffee. So if you go over to www.castlongshadows.com and you use the code Bedlam1, then you will get 15% off and I'll get a tiny bit of money. If you need some good coffee, check them out. Nice one for sponsoring the podcast as always, guys. Pleasure to have you on board. Who else have we got? We'll do some more in a minute. Just quickly before I forget as well, Dan Lee, the last episode, he's always on Facebook Live at 7 p.m. He's trying to keep the community of his happy, and he's doing Bryan Adams covers. He's doing a bit of Soundgarden here and there, and he's in it for a good time. And I love his voice.
I love a Soundgarden cover. That's like,
he did Black Hole Sun earlier. It's just to be able to sing like that, it's just nuts. We'll get onto your singing in a minute. Yeah,
that's some serious shit.
I've got some soap shout out to do in a bit. I'll do that in a bit because I just don't want to keep Brendan waiting too long. But yeah, cheers Archie Soul as always. Cheers John as always. Cheers Cast Long Shadows Coffee. Pleasure to have you, like I say. So, back to Wheatus. So my girlfriend wants to know, how did Wheatus start and where did your band name come from?
We get this question a lot. Thank you. I don't mind answering it. It's always fun. I started the band by myself. That is to say that I was in a bunch of other projects and I began work on Wheatus, what would become Wheatus, around 1994 when I was beginning to toy with the notion of singing and playing my own songs at the same time, both the juggling routine. And I spent 94, 95, 96, and part of 97, very much in the woodshed. Although I was playing a lot of live music during that time and recording a lot of music, none of it was my own in terms of my vocal. I wasn't singing on any of it. I was writing and recording a record for an act that eventually came out on A&M Records. I was in a band called Hope Factory, touring and recording. I was toward the East Coast with Joan Jett and the Blackhearts.
Wow.
And all the while I was sort of tinkering with this. Well, I want to play an acoustic guitar. I want it to sound like a metal guitar. How do I do that? I want to have my voice be authentic and write about what I have lived. How do I do that? And long time in the woodshed before I showed anybody anything. I had a 4-track and a drum machine and a bass and my guitar and a nice, decent microphone that I had purchased with money that I earned fixing printers at a computer repair place. So going over it and revising it until it came to a place where I thought, okay, it's time to start showing people. And I got my started playing with other musicians for something that would be called Wheatus, but the caveat was always, hey guys, I am developing this as my own sort of singer-songwriter project, and it's going to be, I'm going to write all the parts. It's going to be a composed piece. We're not going to improv together for sections or bits. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to just play the songs the way that they are. So that was the first time I had done anything like that, and that was Wheatus. That became
Absolute Bedlam.
Was something that my father had sort of pet named us when we were kids. My brother and sister and I, when we were very little, he would use the word little and sort of mush it up and say, oh, little, weedle, weedle, weedle. And that became Wheatus, 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 So, how pet names will kind of morph over time into something completely not what they originally came from. So that's what Wheatus is. And it was also important to me on the level that it doesn't mean anything to anybody. It was a nonsense word. And I didn't want the name of the band to do anything except for to make a sound,
Right. Okay. No, fair enough.
So that was it. And that process of tinkering at home with my 4-track, eventually inviting other musicians to be a part of it, getting my brother on board, getting Phil Jimenez involved, and producing a record from 1997, 98, 99, and then in the spring of 2000, after we had signed to Columbia Records, we took the fourth swipe at recording the fourth revision of the whole album, which happened at my mother's house in late February and first half of March in the year 2000. And it was about 3.5 weeks it took us to finish it while we were sort of still holding down our day jobs and commuting back and forth from the city.
Yeah, I saw that. What was it Vice did a documentary, and you basically took over your mum's house and recorded a load of songs, and was it Columbia Records were giving you a bit of a hard time saying we want to release the demos, or was it something?
Well, they weren't giving us a hard time, and that was actually a pretty serious nod of approval and faith in us that they wanted to put the demos out. I happened to think that they were inferior, and Columbia Records thought that was it, that they were done. So I said, wait a minute, no, these demos don't sound like a real band. There's still fake drums here and there. It was still one of the transitional periods from my demoing process, getting into the real band process. And so I asked them for $50,000 in 3 weeks, during which we could finish. I think I asked them for a month, and I came in under at 3.5. And that was what we did at my mother's house. We spent the money on some of the gear you see back here, and we set it up in her living room, and we drove her crazy for 3.5 weeks.
Yeah. If we're not watching this on YouTube, guys, if you are watching us on Spotify, get over to YouTube, because I can't even describe the stuff that's going on behind Brendan's. It's like a power station. There's loads of lights and all sorts of crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, it gets worse. This is not good. It's it's very troublesome. It doesn't stop in any direction. It's all just like, oh no.
Man. Yeah. Love it. Yeah, it just goes on and on and on. Oh, wicked. Right, so 21 to 20 years of being in a band, what does that take as an individual / group to endure? Because I've been in bands for, I'd say, probably 7-8 years, and I had to bow out because I had a son. So
right. Well, first and foremost, you have to be people who are can sustain the road, which is to say that you are ready for the discomforts and the slings and arrows of living in a moving vehicle and not knowing where your next shower or meal is going to come from.
Yeah.
At the same time that you are prioritizing and being very careful about your own personal health, you are aware of and looking out for the concerns of your fellow travelers. So that, I would say, is the most important sort of prerequisite. You have to be able to look out for one another. You have to take care of each other. A lot of forgiveness, a lot of letting people off the hook for this and that. A lot of maybe not taking yourself too seriously, but taking the work very, very seriously, and taking your comrades very, very seriously. And if you can do enough of that as a mantra and a meditation, then you can probably pull it off. You also have to work on the music with that in mind. And when you work on the music, you have to do it over and over again. And you have to really dig in to the point where, everyone who starts playing music, at first it's very fun, and for me, it still is. But I do know of the feeling of this is the 250th time that we're recording this particular song. This next take is number 250. Yeah. And that's a lot of time to spend trying to get one 3-minute and 30-second song right. So you make it worth it by really ripping it open and trying to peel the layers and put them back together again in a way that is special enough to go out there in the world and ask people to spend money on it. Because it better be pretty fucking special if you're asking people to spend money on it, Yeah,
especially nowadays where everything's streamed and everything's just like I grew up in this world of I listened to an album, track 1 to track 10. Whereas now it's, I'll listen to track 2 and then I'll completely change artist. And then I might listen to track 8 in a month. And it's like, it's a complete lack of discipline in my opinion, but you've got to move with it and stuff like that. But it kind of ruins the flow of the album. Like some albums I listen to have a nice cohesive one song bleeds into the other. Do you know what I mean? That sort of thing.
There's a few acts that are young that or even middle aged that are doing that very well still. Phoebe Bridgers does that. Her albums are continuous. They have flow. They have a vision from beginning to end.
Yeah.
She's one of the artists who I just trust her, that if I'm pressing play, I don't have to press stop. I can get on my bike and go and not worry about grabbing the phone while I'm doing, 25 miles an hour on my BMX.
That's it.
With no helmet, So like the other act that I think is really has taken that as their discipline is Biffy Clyro.
Love them.
That band makes records. They don't make songs. That shit is epic. So yeah, it's like that, and we approach it from that as best we can on our budgets, and we've tried a couple of different ways. You can do it standing in the same room and playing together, or you can learn the songs independently and meet for single instrument moments. They both have their advantages. My personal favorite is standing in the same room because you learn more about the composition than you thought could possibly exist. Doing it that way. So yeah, it's again, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So it's very hard. It's hard work, but you also can't complain about if you actually are getting paid to play music. What do you have to complain about? You're one of a handful of such a small population of human existence has ever even experienced that.
Yeah,
so,
totally. Yeah.
Just
had a quick look at Phoebe Bridgers, and she actually covers a Bo Burnham song. I absolutely love Bo Burnham. I can talk to anyone about Bo Burnham for hours. It's a complete rabbit hole. We won't go there because it just gets messy.
It really that's our tour bus. Otter right there.
So she covered That Funny Feeling, and Bo Burnham was actually in the crowd. And that YouTube video of someone recording the fact that Bo's in the crowd and she's obviously playing one of his songs back to him in a way, that's gone viral, and it's got like 20 million views on YouTube. So I just had a quick look and checked that was the person that you've just described. So I'm definitely going to check her out. So thanks for the recommendation. I'm always up for listening to new music.
No worries.
So fantastic. So this wouldn't be a Wheatus interview without mentioning the elephant in the room, which is Teenage Dirtbag.
Sure.
So the societal impact that song had. Just quickly before we go into the One Direction territory, that music video is one of the most perfect music videos in my opinion, because it really tells a narrative. It tells a story about like this kid that's like shy and he's afraid to get beaten up and all that sort of thing. And obviously you've got the controversial gun to school lyric and stuff like that. And then at the end when the girl sings and he's in, he gets that chance to take her out for a date, and you just want to like fucking punch the like screen and just be like, yes, you fucking did it. You just don't know how the song is going to play out. Like the first time you hear it, like, yeah, it's just such a good song. It's really, really something. And I know that it's got quite a lot of sort of heritage and it's got quite a lot of personal meaning to you, hasn't it? So,
I've always said, and I still think that what it means to people who are listening to it this moment and tomorrow in their own lives is infinitely more important than anything that I think of it I would say that's true, that it only lives on in people's feelings and not in its intentions.
We were like a victory of getting the girl, so hell yeah. So hitting commercial success straight away with songs such as that, how do you keep the momentum going after it's kind of like the stock market. Like one day you invest in Amazon, for example, the next day you've got this huge trend line of success almost overnight. Obviously we all know that an overnight success is actually 10 years in the making. But how do you keep on top of that wave of this is working?
Well, I never felt empowered to stay on top of it. We felt like the song went out and did things that maybe even its handlers weren't expecting, or in some cases even comfortable with. It was defying expectations and not meeting them, and that meant that it was always a surprise when something happened with it. It's all wrong. Teenage Dirtbag. It's 4 minutes and 20 seconds long, which is way too long for a radio single. It's a minute. It's a minute over, right? Which is unheard of. And back in the day, the heyday of Columbia Records and their big radio machine, where they were, putting Beyonce and Destiny's Child on the map, and they had just done the Fugees, and they were hustling Bob Dylan's catalog and Barbra Streisand and Bruce Springsteen and there's so many other artists that they put out there that are just like Pete Yorn and like all these really credible, like beautiful artists that they were delivering. Columbia Records was driving the radio market like almost singularly at some point, and our song was just not in their weaponry. It just wasn't. So we were misfit from the start with that. And anytime it did anything, it was a surprise. It was like it crashed the party. It was like, wait a minute, how did this happen? And perhaps, as you say, it being this sort of narrative-based thing, it's a story, right? It's a little short story.
Definitely.
It's a short story, and if you were to cut any part of it out, it would fall apart as a short story. So I like to think, of, maybe I'm wrong, but that maybe the fact that it was just beginning, middle, end character development meant more to its longevity than the idea that it be usable in the radio machine of Columbia Records, right?
Yeah.
So it was funny as like the equation of weaponizing it for Columbia Records to deliver, chopping it down to 3:20 or 3 minutes, would have annihilated it.
Definitely.
In its longevity. It would have made no sense. So I think that like, the story itself, the narrative, was pushing back on the convention, saying, no, I'm not done talking yet, kind of thing. You don't know the end yet, and making it worth sticking around for the end to see how these characters turn out was like how the song went about its life,
And also that satisfaction of it actually ends in a good way, rather than this kid just gets stood up and walks off into the sunset.
It's totally unreal. It's a fairy tale ending. It does. It's it doesn't happen in real life, and we all know that. So, certainly not in mine. I mean, I didn't even have. There weren't even girls in my school.
I went to prom with all my friends, all my male friends, because we were like, fuck girls, but we kind of we want girls, but we can't get them. But they don't need to know that. Nah, they're disgusting.
Put on a brave face, mate.
Yeah, that's it. You got it. So, right. So the One Direction reprise of, was it Teenage Dirtbag?
Yes.
How did that affect you as artists?
Introduced us to a group of people who were 10 to 15 years younger than when the song came out, who would, I think, not have had access to it in any meaningful way.
Yeah.
And cracked the American market for the song finally. So 13 years after the song came out in the States, a UK band whose members were 10 years old when it first hit their television and radio, brought it back to its place of origin and showed it to everybody anew. And that's when we saw things start to kick into a different gear that we had planned not to experience. Yeah. So, it was a big turnaround. And then I went, boy bands for me are of a certain time and ethos that I was never into. I was really into Motown. I still am. All of the classic moves and the records that they made back then, the stuff that modern boy bands owe their sort of Origin 2. I was into that, but the middle period of boy bands, even stuff like Boyz II Men, even the really great stuff, I wasn't there for it. I was into, hardcore and, indie folk and metal and weird hip hop. And, the boy band genre was something that I was just like, I can't vibe it.
Yeah.
And when I saw One Direction and I saw the chaos that they were in this like sort of punk rock mode, developed as they were in open violation of so many boy band rules. I was like, what are these kids doing? Is this their idea? Like this is, and then Brockhampton comes after that, and you have this whole rethink of the boy band idea, which I think was really cool. And, that I can kind of be around for. So I think that was they took it and brought it back into a place. The turn of the century, the videos that got made, it was almost all the videos had to have some boy band gloss to them. Even Blink-182 in their parody, right?
Yeah.
Is effectively a very well shot boy band video, except that they're goofing the topic in the video. But it still is, is a sort of glossy boy band video. And it was like, that was how you got videos to play on MTV back then in the heyday of TRL, Total Request Live here in the States was a big show. And if you couldn't get on Total Request Live, you were doomed. I mean, doomed. And I will never forget this, we were TRL wannabes. But it was Christina Aguilera, 98 Degrees, Britney Spears, In Sync. All of it was so boy band. It was so boy band in its aesthetic. Even if it was, like I said, with Blink-182, even if it wasn't actually boy band music, it had to have that aesthetic to get through that market. Yeah. And it was a brilliant move on their part to parody the form in order to do that. But that was what happened. And, even Teenage Dirtbag has boy bandish elements. Now, we, the band, don't really fit that mold. They tried to put us in those places, tried to put us in that lens. And I think it fails in the video to make us look glossy. And I think that might be a good thing in the end, because it becomes a quirky video at that point. So I know a lot of people are really attached to it, but the point being that, I've gone so far off your original question. I'm sorry.
That's fine. This is what this is. That's cool. I think Teenage Dirtbag has a rewatchability to it, but obviously, if you watch a film like American Beauty, when everything goes a bit strange in the middle and that sort of thing, you can watch it again, but there's never that initial surprise of, it ends that way,
Right.
Unless you watch, it once a year or something like that. But it's definitely, I remember it being on Kerrang a lot and Scuzz, and when I was flicking through, there's nothing on MTV, right? I'll head over to Kerrang, and then if there's nothing on Kerrang, I'll head over to Scuzz, and sometimes it was the wallpaper of Kerrang. Really?
I had a wonderful experience with Kerrang TV. We flew over to London, and we were set to live there for a while up in Angel, and I had brought my bike, my BMX bike, in the cargo instead of a suitcase, and I built it because I had a jet lag. I built it while watching Kerrang TV at, I don't know, maybe 3:00 in the morning, like unable to sleep. And the second video that came on was the sort of unedited version of "You're Growing on Me" by The Darkness.
Yeah.
Might have been 2000, or it might have been early 2002, in the spring of 2002. And I was obsessed. I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is the new Led Zeppelin. This is they're gonna do it. This is happening. And I couldn't shut the fuck up about The Darkness. And at the time, not a lot of people knew what I was talking about. I was just bugging out about The Darkness. Got their album is magnificent, And all these years later, I still watch Justin Hawkins' videos on YouTube.
Yeah, I watched one the other day, weirdly enough, because someone threw beer at him on stage when he was singing, and I thought he was going to go mental.
How dare they?
I thought, yeah, it sounds like him. I thought that was going to be like, I've seen, was it Sebastian Bach? Someone threw something at him once on the stage, and he drop kicked them. He came off the stage and kicked someone in like the crowd, and I was
don't
like,
do that.
"Oh my god, that's mental." But Justin Hawkins was just like, "Don't do that, please. I'm not trying to drink. I'm trying to focus on playing the song." I was like, "What?" Completely de-escalated the situation. I was like, "What the hell?" But yeah, there we go. There we go.
Rock royalty, really.
That's it. He played about 25 minutes up the road from me.
Yeah.
There's a thing called Teddy Rocks. Shout out Teddy Rocks. It's all about donating money and raising money for children with cancer.
Sure.
Because fuck cancer. So yeah.
Yeah. Fuck it.
Hell yeah, man. Right. So I've just got one more shout out, and then we're going to talk about Rush. So prepare yourself. I love Rush. So Robin at Nest Soapery is a former pastry chef who makes handcraft cold process soaps. She's an artist first and foremost, which is her key to any process when making soaps. She released soaps on the first Saturday of every month. Our listeners, can use code Absolute Bedlam, all one word, to get 15% off their order. Thank you very much, Robin. Nice one. So, Rush. Am I right in thinking that your first introduction into Rush was Spirit of the Radio?
Yes, but I was a little too young. I was born in 1973. Spirit of the Radio came out in 79, and my cousin Dean played it for me on a cassette tape probably that summer. So I remember hearing the Spirit of Radio on perhaps a little... one of those, not a Walkman, but a little cassette recorder player device that they built them and had a little speaker inside of it. And I think we were walking through the woods together, and he played me that tape in the summer of 79 or possibly 1980. And I remember thinking it sounded very sparkly and special, and it reminded me of a Christmas tree. Like the way that it was so intricately, delicately iridescent and gleaming. And I found them on MTV a few times, on Grace Under Pressure, on in 1985 when they came out with Power Windows, and having they had a good video on MTV Countdown called The Big Money, and I was sort of obsessed with that song, and
that is a tune.
Caught them, and at that point in their middle new wave influence period, they're still a sick ass rock band. I don't know why anybody ever thought that they went south there. I know some people were not into that, but fuck those people. They don't know shit.
Yeah. There's Go on, sorry. Yeah.
No, and then again, Time Stands Still had a video with Amy Mann in it. I remember watching that. And then 2 years later, I was having a really hard time in high school. I was 15 years old. I'll just go right out and say it. I was thinking about how to end my own life. I was in a bad place, and I was coming home from the train station in my father's car. I was commuting to high school at this point. And Show Don't Tell debuted on, I think, WNEW in New York. And I, at that point, had been playing guitar a few years, and that was like coming back to Rush for this like fourth round of this one was just like the knife went right in, and it stayed. And I was like, holy shit, this is incredible. And I immediately bought the record on vinyl and CD, and I grabbed my guitar, and I started trying to figure out how to play it. And for the next 2 years, I really didn't practice with or try to learn anything else. It was always a Rush record. It was Rush. I was obsessed. And that took me through to being, 17 years old. And by the time I was 17 years old, I could play all of the Trees, all of the Hemispheres record, every song on Moving Pictures. I really went in. I used to know how to play Jacob's Ladder note for note when I was 16 years old. I couldn't even begin to do that now. But they taught me how to play really complex music and to wait for your timing, to find the timing that's odd or count and figure it out. And, I saw them a few times in high school during that period at the Nassau Coliseum. And, it was just like, it just cracked it all open. And that record, Presto, was the one when I was 15 where I fully and completely fell into the Rush hole. Yeah. Like that was it. Like I said, I had spotted with them and played along to the big money on TV and tried to figure it out and stuff and kind of gave up, because it was really complex. Yeah, Too complex for me at the time. I was 12 when that came out. So it was like, what is this? And, enough years later, I came back to them and haven't left.
Yeah, I think I heard about them probably through my dad or my stepdad or something like that. I just knew that they existed. And me and my friend Jim, we got a CD, I think, of Rush in Rio.
Oh, yeah.
And we were just like, this is mental. This is unlike anything we've ever heard. And then he managed to get the DVD off one of his friends. And I watched the DVD with him, and I was just in awe of the fact that it was only 3 people. And I literally said to Jim, where are the rest of the people? Because there's no way that this guy is singing and playing bass like this. Geddy is just absolutely ridiculous. And they've also got washing machines on stage. And they're actually washing their washing. It's not just a stage
Always
piece.
Practical with those guys.
Fantastic. There's just so many facts and so many little sort of nuanced things that they do. And yeah, I don't know what my favourite song is. I remember it was on Guitar Hero, YYZ. That's quite, obviously it's an instrumental one, so it's quite a sort of moody song that you have to be in the right frame of mind to absorb. But Roll the Bones, One Little Victory, and Earthshine, I think that riff in Earthshine is just so powerful.
People talk a lot about that one, man. Yeah, that one, that's later in their career, they never stopped burning. They never stopped cooking, man. They were roasting the whole time. And, there's a few moments in the 90s that I relate less to, especially the second half of the 90s. But there's one of my favorite songs is On Vapor Trails. It's the part of the Fear trilogy. Or the Fierce. Let me see. Can you look at really quick? I forget. I'm what the exact name of it is escaping me at the moment.
Rush Vapor Trails album list.
It's an instrument. It's not an instrumental. It's part of the Fear sequence that they have. The Enemy Within and Witch Hunt.
Let's have a look. Vapor Trails.
It's like 7th or 8th or 6th song on the record, somewhere down there.
This is nuts. Bear with.
No, take your time.
Album.
It's worth it because you can tell people about this song.
Yeah. Album list. So we've got One Little Victory, Ceiling Unlimited, Ghost Rider, Peaceable Kingdom, The Stars Look Down, How It Is, Vapor Trail, Secret Touch, Earthshine, Sweet Miracle, Nocturne, Freeze, Part 4 of Fear.
That's it.
Out of the Cradle.
Yeah, Freeze. Man, what a tune. Check that out. I mean, it's so tricky and so fucking in your fucking face the whole time.
Yeah.
And then it's just frenetic, just
yeah, definitely
high tension vibration all the way through the verses that seem to take forever, and then it just breaks through the clouds into this how did they arrive at this?
It's almost like almost like the people that write that music are vessels, and they're just obsessed and possessed and just like, I don't know what's happening. This is just
well, you know what's funny about
out,
that concept? You're coming on a concept. Neil actually wrote a song about that concept.
Okay.
It's called The Mission.
Okay.
And it's on Hold Your Fire. It's on the B-side of Hold Your Fire. And it is literally about the people for whom artistic or creative endeavors, or even just endeavors that require excellence and discipline, are so possessed of their challenge, or their I don't know, not journey,
their destination, like where they want to be,
their endeavor.
Just the
right.
whole
That's the word I was looking for. They're so possessed of their endeavor that they, if you were to really get down to it, they might actually be willing to trade their ability to do it for the peace of mind of not being obsessed with this endeavor anymore. They cannot help it. And it's such a beautiful song. I saw them at Jones Beach Amphitheater, which is a sort of old Greco-Roman style amphitheater on the beach in New York. That's on Long Island, and the sun was setting behind them. Perfect. And this was amazing. They played the mission, and they reached the crescendo, this incredible crescendo in the middle of the song, just like they typically are capable of. And they hit the downbeat, and a swan flies out from behind the stage off into the sunset, right? What the fuck? And the fucking crowd is like, what the hell is that? A fucking MIDI controlled swan? What the hell was that? Did they do that on purpose? Like, people were hysterical. Like, just looking at each other like, did that just really happen? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is like otherworldly.
Unleash the swan.
Gandalf came down and cast a spell.
Hell
and it was so weird.
Well, they've ascended to such a level of talent that they've all become Dr. Dolittle. Just be free.
It really was just next level shit,
I love that stuff. Brilliant. Right, so new album details. Am I right in thinking you're on album number 7 right now?
We are on album number 7, a batch of 10 or 11 new songs, brand new ones.
Brilliant.
Two of which are actually on Spotify already. A song called Lullaby, where we experiment with, just like with the guitar, merging proper jazz with ugly metal, gnarly psychedelic noise metal, mixed with proper melodic, organized, disciplined jazz. That was an experiment, the song Lullaby. The other one that's on there is from that series of songs I'm discussing is Tipsy, a song called Tipsy. That was inspired by Liam Payne from One Direction. Conversation I had with him one night. There's another song called Michelle, which we have a live version of we put out a live record this past year. And it's called M, Live in America. And those are 3 of the songs from the new batch. However, we are still struggling through the 2020 20th anniversary reissue of our first album. You may or may not know that the masters for that record appear to be lost, the originals. So we've recreated them from scratch. We also found the opportunity, 2020, on the 20th anniversary in the year 2020, was supposed to have 20 songs on it. That was the idea. So for that, we found old demos of songs from through the years that sounded like they belonged on album 1, but that's why we never finished them and never put them out, because it would have been sort of like a repeat. So we polished them off and relearned them, and we recorded these 10 sort of alternate universe album 1 songs that are going to come out on the 2020 anniversary edition of album 1 with Teenage Dirtbag 2020, Truffles 2020, Sunshine 2020, Hump 'em and Dump 'em 2020, and so on. All those songs I just mentioned are currently out right now on Spotify. Yeah. And we've been releasing them as pairs. So Teenage Dirtbag has an alternate album 1 partner. It's Antimatter Particle called Mope. So that was one single, double, I call it a double A side, I guess you would say, 2 songs on a single. And then the partner for Sunshine is a song called Through that was written by Joey Slater, one of our backing vocalists. She called all the shots on that one. And Hump 'em and Dump 'em has its partner is, oh boy, I don't remember. I think it's... let's say the reason I can't remember it is because I'm busy trying to remember this crap happening right now. So
of course.
But anyway, so we have these 5 of the pairs are currently up online on Spotify, and paired with their, the 10 songs total are already out. So believe it or not, that's only half the record. The other half I'm in the process of finishing, as you can see. And we hope to finish it all up by the summertime, in which case we'll cut a double LP vinyl of the 20-song edition of album 1, complete with Teenage Dirtbag and all the other songs you're familiar with. We did not cover A Little Respect again because we're planning as a 3rd disc companion to your reissue of the first album. We are planning a covers album. Some of the covers we've done in the past, some we've never done. Songs like Jesse's Girl and Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys and Surrender by Cheap Trick. Some of the songs that we did, those are 3 songs that we did in the clubs in the 1990s. We did those songs. So we're going to grab all of our influences. A Little Respect's going to be on there. We're going to re-record all of it, put it on a 10 or maybe even a 15-song covers record that is a companion to it. And a lot of what I'm talking about requires that we do some renovation to the studio, and we also get this COVID shit over with. Because it's very difficult to do this work if you can't stand in the same room together.
Agreed. Yeah. Hump 'em and Dump 'em was paired with FBSM.
Oh, yes, FBSM. Yeah, that's a song where the band, I put it to the band. I said, I have this old riff. The original lyrics are kind of crap. Why don't you guys replace them with you guys making fun of me?
Brilliant.
So that's what FBSM is all about. It stands for Free Ballin' Stress Machine.
Right, okay. Brilliant. Love that. So yeah, when's album 7? Are you getting the reissue done first, sort of thing, and then
reissue, then album 7, or maybe reissue, then covers, then album 7? We're not really sure, but album 7 has quite a bit of multi-tracking material already done. So we'll get back to it.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And finish it up. Yeah.
What's going on then? What's going on in the Wheatus sphere?
Tons.
Awesome. So, got 2 more questions, and then I'm going to leave you to your day because you've got a lot going on, like we just discovered.
I've got to head off to the vet in about 45 minutes.
No worries. Yeah. What does your day-to-day look like, Brendan?
Like you're seeing it. This is where I spend most of my days. Yeah. I walk the dogs as much as I can just to get out and get some fresh air. But I am in this. I'm in Dr. Brown's laboratory from sometimes starting at 6 a.m. Yeah. The recording system that we use is called Pyramix DSD, which means for lay people you can't tinker with the audio and correct it the way that you can in systems that have auto-tune and quantizing grids and all those happy horseshit tricks that are out there. Don't get me wrong, I'm totally in favor of making lots of pop records with all the great new tools. I sometimes use them myself when I'm working with other people, and I enjoy them. But the Wheatus material, we try to treat it like it's being done on a tape machine. So learn how to play it right. Don't learn how to edit it into being right. That's the sort of discipline.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
And that means there's a lot more work to do. There's a lot more file management. You're constantly making sure that all this stuff that you're recording is in the right place in triplicate, and you're not losing anything. So so that's what I do every day. And also the analog gear doesn't sound the same tomorrow as it does today. So if you get a special spot, you got to hurry up and finish what you're working on, because it'll never sound that way again. So capturing special moments on these unique pieces of electronics is also a thing. Unfortunately, there's a challenge with digital recording systems where, if you have the latest Waves plugin and somebody else has it, guess what? You're putting out the same exact mathematically identical signal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It does the same thing. And, you have a different kick drum maybe, but more and more the treatment of it is going to be the same. So it's almost like in the end, everyone's going to be kind of working in the same exact studio.
Yeah, everything will sound sonically identical.
Yeah, right. There'll be a stamp. There'll be a stamp of these companies instead of a stamp of the guy who was sweating over that in 1988. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's a different world. The analog, you never get the same trick twice.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Yeah. Cool. Hobbies outside of music. Obviously, you've just mentioned your dogs, and you've mentioned walking and
BMX. I have 24-inch BMX cruisers. I have a Skunkworks quad angle, which is a tribute to an SE racing bike from back in the day. They're making new ones that are pretty slick these days. But if I could, I would spend 3 hours a day BMXing in the sunshine and doing jumps and all that stuff. That's my favorite thing to do with my body when I'm not playing guitar.
Yeah, fair enough. Love it. Awesome. So next time we record, because I really want to get Matt on at some point, we'll have to do a medley to sign you off. But just quickly before I ask the last question, which is the most important question of the podcast, do you have any questions for me at all, or do you have anything that you want to promote or announce?
I pretty much shot everything out of there. There's a movie being made about us by a couple of UK lads called Wheatus, You Might Die. If the Vice documentary was, if from that you learned that there was a car, the Wheatus, You Might Die documentary is a feature-length film, more than 2 hours long, where you'll get a look under the hood at things that we have been reluctant to talk about and share forever. So, and that's the best I can say about it right now. I'm really excited about that. And aside from that, how long have you been doing this? That's my question to you.
Just over 16 months. This started as a operation and an experiment for me to have a chat with some friends that I haven't spoken to since I left school. It then very, very quickly, probably quite aggressively, turned into I want to see how many people I can get on this podcast that mean something to me and inspire me. And I've got the drummer of Devon Townsend on in May, which is just beyond anything that I would ever think. And obviously, yourself, like I can't believe that MC Lars came on and gave me a chance, and that's really opened my world to why don't you just ask this guy and sort of
man, I got to tell you, not to interrupt, but I thought it would have been much longer than 16 months. I didn't expect that.
I really love doing this, and I've got such a musical background, and I've got such a good way at asking questions. And yeah, I've always just been around people putting gigs on and roadieing and just helping out at the door at gigs if someone needs to quickly pop to the toilet and stuff like that. And I'm quite a confident, like I said earlier, and confident individual. And I was pretty much shitting myself before this, to be completely honest with you, because I had to shower, I had to feed myself, I had to make sure the rats were tended to, and I've got real life running in parallel with this. You know what I mean?
We all do, mate. I'm running upstairs in about 5 minutes to go. My dog in the car and driving to the vet. Yeah, it's gonna be so. Well, that's wonderful, man. I mean, you dove in head first. That's crazy.
I love it. I love doing this. It's one of my favorite things to do.
I loved speaking to you, and I Would love to do it again if you want sometime. It's all good.
Absolutely. Let's do it. So when you come over to the UK, this is the last question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever find yourself in supermarkets buying something known as a meal deal?
Not a meal deal. We go to supermarkets and we buy your snacks, which we never have on our shelves.
Okay, give me a couple of those.
The weird crisps and sort of crisp-esque snacks that you have in bags, freeze-dried bags or whatever, are so strange and weird to us. Pickle spice this, gummy tart that. All this is like weird shit that we're like, who even thought to put Cajun pickle juice with prawn with prawn and egg yolk into a potato crisp and then spice it with bubblegum spice. So I don't know, what is this crap? We have to try this. So we do videos on our Instagram where we taste the panoply of bizarre snacks that you can find in the Asda or the Sainsbury's.
That's it.
And,
yeah. You got it. If someone's gone to the effort of throwing a load of shit at a dartboard and deciding to make that product out of what's on the dartboard, the least you can do, Brendan, is try it, right?
Much to my chagrin, I am often the subject, and I have to try things that I would say to under all circumstances. But here we are. Here we are. Yeah.
Well, I'll have to look out for those because I've not seen any of them, but I'm all about food reviews. There's a guy I interviewed a while back called Blue Van Man, and he just sits in his van eating McDonald's, ranting about how fucked the UK government is, and I'm totally here for that.
I follow a guy named Mark, who's on Twitter, who does almost the exact same thing, except he's not eating; he's reading the morning paper. So
he does that as well, Dave. Blue Van Man, bless him. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm going to let you crack on and tend to your dog. It's been a genuine pleasure speaking to you, and I really appreciate it. Cool.
You want to make sure you secure your recording first.
Absolutely.
Before you sign off. Yeah.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Absolute bedlam.
Hello. Thanks for watching that episode of Absolute Bedlam Podcast. This is sponsorship mode / corner, or whatever you want to call it. So, obviously, we've got the steadfast sponsor of the podcast, which is Grind Fitness and Sportswear Clothing. Bedlam 2022 will get you 25% off all their products on their website, which is www.grindlimiteduk.com. The other day I went for a 10k, was wearing my grind gear, felt a bit like I wanted to do a bit more, ended up doing a half marathon. So I did 22k and I was meant to do 10. Needless to say, at the end of it, my legs were killing me, but I think grind gear definitely plays a part in that. It doesn't cling to you, like I've mentioned, and it just sort of allows you to sort of flow and breeze a bit better. And yeah, you've got to try it for yourself really to understand what I'm saying. But yeah, check out Grind as always. If you need any questions answered or you need anything run past, then drop me a message on Instagram, which is Absolute Bedlam Podcast. And I will reply to you as soon as I can. Right, that's the grind section done. Archie Soul, as always, hooking me up with the beard wash from Duke Cannon. It's got a hint of oak barrel and Buffalo Trace Kentucky Straight Bourbon whiskey. I know that's backwards, I'm sorry. Got some more Duke Cannon here. Same again, Buffalo Trace. This is a bar of soap, as I've mentioned numerous times now in guest episodes. That's a big boy. Bedlam 2022, once again, will get you 20% off everything on archiesoul.com. And for Christmas, I was very kindly given a £25 bottle of Anthony Sea Kelp Scrub, which is absolutely awesome, and I love it. So that's Archie Soul, www.archiesoul.com. And finally, we have made sure, as always, I love fragrances. if anyone knows me in real life, I love candles, I love scents, I love walking into a house and smelling like gingerbread or lemon and lime or strawberries. And I don't think that that's necessarily something that's appreciated by men. And I think it should be, because there's nothing wrong with it. It's always seen as very girly. However, I think that we should normalise it for men. So madesure.pigcartel.com. Bedlam 20, not Bedlam 2022, for 20% off your order. We've got wax melts to suit every emotion, every feeling. We've got Jamaican Me Crazy. This one, you can smell it through the wrapper. It is amazing. It's a really left field scent. It's quite a tropical, fruity smell. We've got lemon and lime. If the camera wants to focus, that would be fantastic. Lemon and lime. There we go. Smell that one as well. They're really powerful, but they're really like sort of punchy, and they are meant to be sort of chunked and sort of separated. You're not meant to put the whole thing in your burner. So yeah, there we go. Pink Flamingo as well is the last one I've got to hand. And we've got Avabath here. Avabath. So yeah, just mind-blowing. Everyone that I've ever sent any Made Sure stuff to has absolutely loved it. And I think that 2022 could be their year. Hopefully going to look at doing some events and some fairs when COVID finally jogs on. But yeah, I'm really, really proud of Hannah for making just these amazing snap bars, wax melts. We're looking potentially at getting burner kits, but that's a little bit way down the road. A lot of people say, you know, how do you use them? And it would be good to do like an all assembled thing. I think Hannah's looking at doing some spring scents soon. And then we'll look into doing it as a seasonal thing, you know, spring, summer, autumn, winter, Halloween, Christmas, that sort of stuff in the middle. But yeah, I absolutely love all my sponsors. I use all of the stuff myself, and I just try and be as genuine as possible with it, really. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you are watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. I'm nearly at 30 subscribers, I think, and I'd like to get to 50 by the end of February if possible. I don't think that's an unachievable task. But yeah, thanks as always for listening, watching, and I hope that the guests that I've just had on has been interesting. So I will speak to you all very, very soon. Keep it Bedlam, and please support the show by supporting my sponsors. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Absolute Bedlam Podcast. Who? What? Where? Why?